All right, Fungal Banner fans, we are extremely excited to be back with our next guest of this season, Darren Trainor, the head coach of Lewiston High School. Welcome to the Fungal Banner podcast.
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity to be on. Like we talked about earlier, I've been a long time listener, and you guys do a great job. So really excited to get on here and talk some baseball with you guys.
Well, we truly appreciate that. And when this airs, it's going to be the Christmas episode. So Merry Christmas, everybody, for
Wow,
what's going on. So that's a
Merry
big one.
Christmas.
I'm just saying,
Yeah, that is a big one. I feel honored. Hopefully, I
this
don't let you guys down.
a
gift to everyone's ears.
That thing, right? That's why we saved it.
Yeah.
Our first hard hitting question right away is, what's your favorite fungo?
Favorite fungo. That's a good one. So when I got into coaching, I was coaching the catchers at Lewis Clark State. So I never really had a fungo. I just borrowed, I think it was Alan Ballmer's or Billy Silvestri's. And I realized early on in the coaching profession, it's not very easy to hit a fungo. And so tried to get better at it. And when I got the job here at Lewiston High School, one of the first guys that I met was Bill Jensen, and his name around here at Lewiston High School is Wild Bill. He's been taking care of the field, helping the Lewiston School District for the past 40 years. And so when I took over, he introduced himself, and he gifted us 4 orange Mizuno fungos. I'm not sure the type of wood this fungo has, but he gave it to us, and they're orange, and our colors are purple and gold. And so they haven't broken yet, so our whole staff rocks those orange fungos, and we just think about Wild Bill and everything he does for our program whenever we break those things out. And he's just a great guy, just a Bengal, and works his tail off every single day. So I'm gonna have to go with the Wild Bill orange Mizuno fungo. It's my favorite. So
I think that one's got the best story behind it so far. So that's great. That's freaking awesome. So talk us through your path through baseball, where you started as a player, and then, getting all your way to Lewis and Clark State, and then what got you into coaching and where you're at today.
Sure. I think so. I'm from Turlock, California, in the Central Valley of California, kind of in the middle of Sacramento and Fresno. I think it starts with my dad, my grandpa. My grandfather was a football and baseball player at UC Davis, college coach at Laney College back in the 80s with Tom Purse, and ended up coaching at the high school level, and was a school psychologist. And so just being around him, and then my dad was a junior college All-American and played Division I baseball at UC Berkeley, and coached at Sonoma State under John Geltz, legendary coach John Geltz for a decent amount of time, and then coached at Loney College, coached at Berkeley High School, and then he ended up taking a job at Turlock High School as a PE teacher and the head baseball coach there in the 90s, and had a good run there for about 5-6 years. And they won a couple league titles, and ended up losing the section championship to Vallejo High School with a lefty on the mound by the name of CC Sabathia. So it was kind of tough matchup for them that day. But being around him, he got in administration after teaching and coaching, and so he was able to coach our travel teams growing up, and then going to Turlock High School, and playing for some of the coaches that he coached with that are his best friends, and that are almost like second dads to me. And so being around them, and I was just in a good spot at Turlock High School. We had a really good run there from about 2010 to 2014, and they're still doing great things to this day, but pretty smaller town, about 70,000 people. It's gotten bigger as of late, but we all played together. We all were from Turlock, playing on the same travel team, and played high school baseball together before the breakout of these different travel teams that pull from everywhere. And so that really molded me, I think. And I was not a very good player in high school. I didn't play at all really as a junior. I was on the team, but didn't play a whole lot. Was on a great team as a senior, 28-3. We lost in the section championship. We had some great players come through for a small town. Kevin Kramer was a second round pick at UCLA, made it to the big leagues. Blake Cederland ended up going with me to junior college, made it to the big leagues. Brett Cumberland, Cal. So I was on a great team, and just lucky enough to get in there, hit ninth, and play a little second base. Pretty undersized as a high school kid. And then I wasn't really recruited. And that's the beauty of California junior college baseball. If you love the game, like you can go play. And so I was lucky enough that my grandfather was good friends with Chris Pedretti at Merced College. It's about 45 minutes down the road. And so I was able to head over there and play for an unbelievable coach. He's now the ABCA NorCal president. So he's just a legendary coach. So I was able to play for him for 3 years. My goal really was, when I got there were 75 kids that showed up on that first day of tryouts. And so talking to my dad, I was just like, I don't know. I didn't get any awards in high school or nothing. So I don't know if, I can do this. And he was, if you love the game, man, keep showing up. These kids will maybe, sprinkle off, and sure enough they did. And my goal was just to make the team my freshman year just as a travel redshirt and just be a part of it. And I was able to do that, and then played there for a couple years. Great experience playing for great coaches, and then was able to come to Lewis Clark State, and then played for two great coaches here, Jeremiah Robbins for 2, and then Jake Taylor for his first year. Just an unbelievable experience. I tore my UCL in the middle of my sophomore year of junior college. So I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go play. And I was able to see Lewis Clark State work out at Merced College. They were on a California trip. And just seeing those athletes and the way that they attacked a BP session was pretty unbelievable. And I told my dad, I was like, I think I want to go there. I don't know where Lewiston, Idaho is, but let's go check it out. So we went out to the World Series, and if you go to the NAIA World Series and you're a baseball guy, it's something special. So 5,000 people playing in front of your home crowd, and I just wanted to be a part of that. So I was lucky enough to go there, and started coaching with Coach Taylor after I got done playing. Just wanted to stay in the game. Just playing career's over, but want to stay in the game. Want to see if I can do this. See if I can coach a little bit, and made a ton of mistakes along the way. But just under some great mentors, and Jeremiah Robbins, Jake Taylor, Alan Balmer, Billy Silvestri. And the different baseball background going from California and playing small ball and learning how to bunt and base run and all that good stuff. And then seeing a little bit different side that's probably more typical to Division I college baseball now, which is much more offensive, velocity, arms on the mound, much more throwing harder and all that stuff. And seeing that at Lewis Clark State is probably what brought me to where I am today.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's great to hear on this episode the paths of people that have kind of come, and there's people that have been very fortunate, right? That have had great opportunities. There's other people that had to work a little bit harder for those opportunities. As a JUCO guy, and I think the three of us that are on this podcast constantly, it's none of us were blue chip prospects, right? And I think we have a really good background of kind of some work that it took to have good experiences in college and take that on to the next level. And I'm always kind of passionate about the player that doesn't have things easy, right? That had to work for things that wasn't always the star player and whatnot. So for you to experience that and not be a stud until late in your career, like I think that levels with a lot of people within this podcast. But what is your kind of your message, your thoughts, your feelings towards kind of how you attack as a coach now, knowing the work it took to get to where you ended up being, having people in your corner that the bloodlines you talked about that played some pretty high level baseball, and not that you didn't live up to those standards, but like maybe in your senior year it wasn't looking like that was going to happen, and how hard you had to work in order for that to happen. But talk to maybe the player or the coach that's talking to the player about what it takes to reach a high level, to a peak, to the work that it takes to put in, and all those things that you had to experience, and how you leverage that on your players and people you come in contact with now.
Yeah, I think one, you got to love the game. You got to really enjoy the game and being at the yard, practice, preparation. If you love it, and we have some kids now at Lewiston High School that really love it, that eat, sleep, breathe baseball. If you love the game and you work at it and you get after it in the weight room and take the things serious that you need to, you can achieve a lot in this game and keep going until someone will take the jersey off you. So I think it just talking about, if they really love the game, just continuing to push, continuing to be a good teammate, listen to their coaches, continuing to compete in the classroom too. Like that's another piece with our kids nowadays. You're gonna have to have decent grades to continue to go on and play, and that's just money in your pocket from a scholarship standpoint, or whatever level you want to go play at the next level. Having good grades is going to help you get there. It's going to help you get there. So we talk a lot about just competing in the classroom and competing in the things that we don't necessarily love to do. Obviously, we love most of our kids love to play baseball. A little bit different in the classroom, but still trying to find a way to get those competitive juices flowing and still compete in there and do our best and pursue our best. And that's all you can do. But yeah, I think and also like resonating with those players that are maybe role players on your high school team or your college team, and you've kind of been in that role. And so talking to them, having real conversations with them about your vision for them and where they can be at the next level. And they really can accomplish it if they can focus on the things that they need to control: the nutrition, the weight room, being a good teammate. All those things will help you at the next level. And I've been around a lot of these college coaches in the Northwest, and there's not very many coaches that won't take a great kid that works his tail off, that competes in the classroom, that does his best in the classroom, that cares about the weight room and loves the game of baseball, regardless of how talented he is. He's going to get an opportunity to walk on at a junior college. And then from there, if that's what you love and you keep those things at heart and keep competing in those things: nutrition, weight room, sleep, classroom, you're going to find yourself playing 4 years of college baseball, which is a great story. So try to talk to our guys a lot about that, and it's out there, man. There's a lot of colleges out there, and you can play as long as you can if you really love the game and want to put in the work.
Yeah, Darren, I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's the part of the inspiring the player, right?
Mm-hmm.
As coaches, we're not only teaching the game, but bringing that out, the best out of them, and seeing the extent of how far they can push themselves. And I think that when you inspire somebody, you can really gain a lot. It's their own grasping on their own, way, but sometimes it's just that encouragement, that sitting down and dialogue takes them even further than you could even imagine. I think sometimes too, as coaches, we don't really realize our impact until maybe years down the road, where they say, "Hey, just that time you pulled me out of practice and just had that one-on-one conversation completely changed me as a player." And I see that all the time with high school players. They come in their freshman year, they're extremely nervous, they're comparing themselves to the junior and senior or even the sophomore ahead of them, but it's just like pulling them aside and say, "Hey, you're doing the right things. Just continue to work hard, continue to listen, and you're going to be that guy." And those guys
Absolutely.
will completely change. And so it's just, I think that's what it is, right? Just inspiring those kids, pushing them as far as they can go. And then there's going to be limits to where they can go too.
Yeah.
Once they hit those limits, it's all good. Life is not all about playing the game, but the game teaches so much about life that sometimes we just they're just playing the sport for fun. No, it's not just that. It's a lot more detail.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. And, they're just balls of clay right now. I mean, we were all 16, 17 years old at some point. They're good kids. They're good kids. But yeah, getting them to see the big picture. And at the end of the day, like if they can leave your high school program with some tools for life that they can hopefully think back to maybe some adversity that they saw, because we know that baseball is a game of failure, some tools that they can lean on to be successful in whatever they want to do, whether it's going to the military, whether it's going to the workforce, whether it's starting a business, going to college. Yeah, hopefully going and playing Division I college baseball. But if they can look back and have some of those tools that you maybe instilled in them, then I think you did your job.
That's great. Well, let's dive into the catching framework. Talk a little about your path as a catcher. You always set out to be the catcher. Were the shortstop in Little League, and then eventually someone had to play catcher. You're always the kind of the blue blood catcher to through and through from, before you could even walk with the pads on to when things got comfortable. Talked about you and as a catcher.
Yeah. So I think my journey as a catcher started my freshman year at college. I was an infielder growing up, undersized, slow, and had an okay arm. And I think Merced College in the fall of 2015, we had 7 second basemen, and I think every single one of them could hit better than I could. So was just trying to grind, trying to stay in there, trying to let the coaches know who I was and everything. So I think we played. We had a fall baseball game in California community college baseball. You get about 16 fall games. And they're just like 18 inning doubleheaders, marathons. And in the second game of the doubleheader, we had 2 of our catchers had night class on a Wednesday. And so Coach Pedretti and Coach Devine were looking around. I'm just a backup infielder trying to get in the game. It would be awesome to get in the game as a freshman. And I was like, wow, that would be cool. And he came up to me. He was like, hey, have you ever caught before? And I lied. I mean, I caught in Little League, maybe a little bit, a couple games, but I lied. I was just like, yeah, I've caught before. I'll be fine. So was able to get thrown back there. And that I did okay. I was grinding back there. I like the piece of being a part of every play, and I like the relationships with the pitchers. And so I was able to just get back there and started working at it, and started blocking and receiving, and really loved it. Went off and played summer ball that whole summer as a catcher, and really loved it, and came back and was able to catch for 2 years there. So I love everything about the position. I love the toughness piece, love the leadership piece, a lot of the traits that we look for in our high school teams, that second coach on the field kind of mentality we look for in our catchers. So was able to stick it out back there, and I wasn't a super fast infielder to begin with, so they stuck me back there, and stayed there the rest of my college career, and it was a lot of fun. And yeah, a lot of the stuff that we were working on at LC and at Merced College, we try to instill in our guys today, and go from there. But I think from the catching standpoint, like, you have to have a leader back there. You have to have a kid that you trust. I think when you're looking at traits or tools that you value for us, like, and where we play and who we play against, you have to be able to receive for us. You have to be able to control the run game, and that, arm strength. That's a plus. We don't have plus arms in our program, but we have guys that work at it. Got to be an athletic guy that can block and know the understanding situations, and 0-2, 1-2 slider in the dirt. You got to be able to block those. Not saying every spiked fastball pitcher misses his spot 4 feet off, then need to block those. But you have to be an athlete. You got to be able to block. and then offense comes as a plus. So if you have those traits, you're going to play a lot for us, and that's just the way that our staff has thought about it. Like, we're trying to focus on throwing as much strikes as possible, and limiting defensive mistakes and just playing clean baseball and trying not to lose the game. Because in high school baseball, you see a lot, like teams will lose the game from defensive mistakes or something like that. But so that's just what we try to focus on. And a lot of that is maybe our athletes, we're a little undersized, and we don't have a ton of swing and miss stuff on the mound. And then also we play at Church Field, which is 400 to center, 375 to the gaps, and 330 down the line. So we got to be able to throw strikes, go track it down, keep the thing in front of us, and just do our best to compete offensively. So.
Go ahead, Eric.
I was going to say, to give a little pitch here, that if you're listening to this and you want to hear more, Coach here is going to be presenting on catching here at the Washington State Baseball Coaches Association, like in Ellsberg, like we talked about in the beginning. But, talk about some of that stuff, because I know that the catching position, which for some reason it can go unattended in most high school programs, right? Like,
yeah.
We're not catching. At one point, I had a coaching staff of 4 left-handed guys, and so there wasn't a lot of so bad on my part. But talk to us about maybe your day-to-day attack of that with developing your catchers and keeping those guys. We're just teaching them the position.
Mm-hmm. So our in season, our practice day starts at 3:15. But we're out there at 2:45, getting early outs. And so I'm pretty blessed. I got a great coaching staff, with some great volunteers that really care about our kids and the program, and that I have ties to from my playing career and everything. So we're out there at 2:45, and that's usually typically where our catchers are going through their little daily individual routine, where they're receiving. We like to work on receiving the low pitch. I think the low pitch is the toughest. You have to have a good path to the baseball to receive the low pitch, and if a catcher's coming down on the ball and receiving the baseball, you're not going to be able to present strikes. So work on the low pitch every single day. Tennis balls without a glove. Start with the glove hand on the ground, and then we'll go some weighted balls. We'll go some underhand tosses with the weighted balls, just getting the path. Then we'll go coach pitch. Then we'll get some machines going, and then we're trying to get, I don't know, 250 to 300 reps before their catch play that starts at 3:15. And so we're just trying to instill those habits, and they may change, but for the most part, in the beginning, we work on receiving that low pitch and having an understanding of the path to the baseball, low to high, receiving the baseball, bringing it up to the middle of the strike zone. And then from there, we can work on the inside pitch, keeping your glove hand underneath it. Same thing with the outside pitch, understanding pitch shape and matching that pitch shape with your angle and your path to the baseball. If you can't receive, and if you're giving up free bases as a catcher, for us, we can't play you back there. Like, we just can't, because we're not going to be able to score 17, 18 runs a game and hammer 6 balls out of the yard. We got to be able to control the strike zone, receive strikes, do your best to block, do your best to control the run game. If you hit, great, but that's what we look for. So focus on that low pitch, and then progressions from there. But we have a volunteer assistant by the name of Zach Fisher, who was an All-American at New Mexico State. We got lucky. I just met his wife when I was at Lewis Clark State. She's the sports information director there. And she was like, yeah, my husband's looking to volunteer and help out. And I looked up his name, and I was like, holy, this guy played AAA baseball. Yeah, we need to get him a part of this. And so he does a great job with our catchers. He's old school. He's the man. He works. He has like a weird schedule. He works from 12 to 12, and he takes his lunch break from 3:30 to 5 p.m. every day to go be with our kids and be at practice. So he's an unsung hero of our program. We got a lot of really good assistants. So
how's that teaching of the interest, like is he an old timer? Like AAA guy, or is he like pretty newer age?
He's like 32. His
Okay.
claim to
I mean,
fame
so
is
he's
he hit a bomb off
okay.
Strasburg back in the day. So
Oh wow.
Nice.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we love those claim to fame.
yeah.
You know, how is some of that, you know, coaches out there that you know want the two knee up setup and, you know, glove rolls and all that? Like, what's kind of your message to, you know, someone that's maybe against the grain of what has been taught in the past compared to maybe what we statistically know now, even though maybe statistics
Sure.
aren't the, you know, favorite to certain people, but, you know, kind of what's your pitch to if you are, you know, pro one knee, and, you know, talk a little bit more about working down and up through the ball, that, you know, glove down and that kind of stuff.
I think it starts with being comfortable back there. Um, you have to be in a comfortable primary position with no runners on, or no, uh, less than a 2 strike count, um, to present strikes. And so we start from there, and it varies from hip flexibility, right, with these kids. But we got to find a comfortable position, and then we can kind of break down looking into the glove path and understanding when to attack the pitch. I think for the most part, though, like, you have to be aggressive when attacking the pitch. Like, if you let the pitch dictate you, or if you're late to the party, or if you're tentative, then we're going to get blown up by pitches, and we're not going to present strikes. We just want to make strikes. We're not trying to steal anything off the outside or the inside or up top. Like, if we can just make strikes, like, we're going to be okay. So I think it starts with being comfortable, and then from there in the secondary stance, um, like, I think we're giving up too much for blocking a pitch, um, where we're up in this like unathletic, stance, because all of a sudden now a runner's on, and they might steal, or that a pitcher might throw a ball in the dirt, and so now we're in this uncomfortable stance, and well, now we're losing the strike, and now it's 2-1 instead of 1-2. So we want them to be in a little bit lower stance with a runner on base, and maybe give up, especially in a fastball count. We're giving up a little bit of, okay, we may miss a block that's 4 feet to the outside or 4 feet to the inside, but we're going to present that strike, and we're in a comfortable position, and we've trained these kids. When they're in their secondary position, they trust their training, that they're going to be able to receive a pitch the right way. So I don't know if I answered your question the way you wanted me to, but like, it's just, I want them to be in a comfortable position, and if a pitcher spikes a pitch, now, if it's a breaking ball count or a 1-2 count with an extra slider, and we want to, get our butt up a little bit higher and be ready for that block, then I can understand that. But it's just kind of knowing the counts, and that's trusting your guy back there and explaining situations to them. That you got to know the situation. You got to know where your comfort level is, and what secondary position works for you, and then we'll just go from there.
Yeah, I think things are different at the high school level. You know, I think the first thing where my brain spins is that every miss is bigger, right? Every miss as a pitcher is
Sure.
generally bigger than what a college pitcher is able to do, with the exception of your top end guys who should be able to do those things. But, you know, does that play into maybe the hesitancy of, you know, full-time one knee, knowing that you might have to be a little bit more springy to jump on that breaking ball
Yeah.
that's in the other batter's box, or the fastball that's going to go to the backstop? Like, does that play into your decision? Like, when you compare with yourself as a college coach to yourself as a high school coach, like, would you handle things differently between those two age levels as far as those setups go?
Absolutely. We haven't, as far as the secondary stance, we haven't had a kid that can really um, block on one knee in the secondary stance really well. Like, coming from the standpoint and the points you just brought up, because we have kids that can miss. The misses are much bigger, so it's just it's a free base, and that's something that we look at when evaluating our catchers. You got to be able to limit free bases, the balls that are, in front of you on the plate, the blocks. Like, we need to block those, and if we can't block those, then that's a free base. So, yeah, I would say so. I think all of our guys in the secondary stance are off of one knee. They're in an athletic stance, but I would say it's varied much more from the traditional, even the way that maybe I did it when I was playing, where you're up in this uncomfortable stance. You're so worried to block. You're bulky, and then you can't receive. Your gloves coming down because you're worried about blocking, or your left knee's coming down because you're worried about blocking on a fastball. So that's just knowing and or explaining to the kids, like, okay, we're gonna find a happy medium in between the two. We want you to be thinking about receiving here, and then if by chance the pitcher misses, a spiked fastball is gonna happen. We're gonna lead with our glove. We're gonna do our best to be an athlete, and we're going to try to use our chest protector as our glove and block that thing in front. And I know it's a lot easier said than done, but 4 feet miss on a spiked fastball or a huge miss on a spiked breaking ball, I wouldn't say that's necessarily on the catcher. We got to have a little bit better miss from the pitching side.
How much, I don't know if you guys call pitches or you let your catchers call their own game, but how important is that dialogue? I know you kind of talked about, in this situation with your catchers, but
yeah,
they're coming in and on off the field, laying it all out, of course you kind of mentioned, the catcher is the smartest guy on the field. You've got it.
Yeah.
You're the captain of the ship, right?
Absolutely.
So in order to be controlled, they got to know, the situation. We got to know what we're running. And so how important that is for you to dialogue with your catchers there.
Yeah, it's awesome. We actually went to, I'm forgetting the company's name, but we went to the earpiece into the catcher's ear last year, and I was a little hesitant at first, didn't know, what to think about it, and we used it throughout the spring and summer, and it was awesome. Our pitching coach is talking to our catcher in his ear throughout the at bat. Talking to him to go out to the mound and calm our pitcher down because we only get 3 visits to the mound. That was a huge deal, having that piece and talking through situations with our guys back there. It's in his ear. Hey, 1-2 count here. All right, we're going extra slider. You need to be ready to block. Okay. Hey, go talk to our pitcher here. It's been 3 straight pitches. He's been on a C count. He's fallen into a rhythm. Go talk to him. Let's break that up. So really important to talk to those guys and make sure that you're all on the same page. And it starts in practice too, like in bullpen sessions. You have to be a good communicator behind there. You have to be. You can't be a quiet guy. You can't be a guy that's just always going to tell the pitchers what they want to hear. You got to be able to communicate. Try to coach our guys on just subtle movements of, it throws a good pitch, point at him, let him know, like, you got to be their biggest cheerleader back there. And then also if they miss a spot, hey, let them know, like, hey, got to be better there. So all that stuff is just little nuances that, if our catchers can find a way to really receive, control the run game, really be a good communicator, good leader, and be great at relationships with that pitching staff. Regardless of how he hits, he's going to go play college baseball. If he can do those 4 things. So that's something that we talk to our guys about on the daily, and have a good relationship with both of our catchers and do a pretty good job.
Yeah, we used PitchCom here this last season, and we implemented it into our practices and getting those guys to get used to hearing a voice in their ear, because it kind of can throw them off, and but being able to, have them understand when to backdoor a guy at first, or when to get a guy at third, in those kind of situations. And, it's super helpful. I mean, I'm a big technology guy, there's a lot of good things out there for sure that help grow the game, but also kind of help that player grow and understanding of how to become a better position player, especially in catching.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's crazy how much technology has come, man. It's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. It's crazy when it goes out too. We had a couple times where it went out and we're scrambling. Well, can we continue playing the game? Well, yeah, we can.
Well, the worst is when it accidentally gets unplugged and you're calling it in, and then like the umpire looks at you and you're kind of like, what's going on? And then you get a timeout situation. He comes over and he's like, yeah, the batter's saying curveball. What?
Yeah.
Well, we bought it this offseason. I'm excited to implement it. That's where I've been going back and forth. I've always tried to talk to my catchers like, hey, I want you to call the game.
Yeah.
But if you have a moment where you're confused or you don't know what to do, look over. And we had signs of what I thought I should throw at that pitch. I mean, is that still happening with you guys? And I'm so excited to be able to call defenses from there, tell them when they go to a mound visit or whatnot. But talk about the communication. You don't have to give us all your secrets, obviously, but is it a pitch by pitch deal or is it just more of suggestions? And this is what is it coaching them, teaching them along the way?
Yeah, I think it's suggestions. And I think we had two young guys last year. We had a sophomore and then we had a freshman that just came on late and just outworked everyone and just does a great job receiving, blocking, throwing, and is a great leader as a freshman, which was pretty unique. So, we had two young guys. So, so we called the pitches for the most part throughout the spring. If a pitcher gets in a good role, then we might give him a few or get him into a rhythm, and then he can kind of go with that catcher. So I think once you feel pretty comfortable about the catcher and his decision making, and that's what inter squads are for, is they're for the most part calling their game in inter squads and explaining situations and hitter tendencies and what we see and from scouting and all that. Like if you feel like you're comfortable with your guy back there and give the power to him, I think it's more power to you. It's better for the relationships on the pitching staff too. Like those guys can talk it out and they're taking ownership of kind of the game plan and what they're trying to do from a catcher and pitching perspective. But yeah, I think it's been a good tool for us. Like it's been a really good tool. And then we're gonna kind of see how the spring plays out, see how the inter squads play out, see how the relationships go, and we have two guys that I feel pretty comfortable with. That they can call their own game and have an understanding of what they're trying to do.
Well, let's dive into practice planning a little bit. We'll talk,
Sure.
developing guys and making them the best, players for your program compared to the best versions of themselves. How do kind of practices vary for you guys on a weekly basis? Is it, pretty similar day to day? Is there a general model? Is it kind of go to different sides? Just kind of walk us through kind of what a day in the life is at a practice at Lewiston High School for you guys.
I would say things are pretty routine. Like I said, our kids get out of school early here. And a lot of our juniors and maybe not juniors, but our seniors have early release, so they're able to get out of school early. And so we get out of school at 2:25, and we talked about it earlier. We get our early out started at 2:45, where we get a bunch of reps. Some guys are with the infielders, some guys are with the pitchers and our pitching coach, Brooks Uhas. Some guys are offensive focused in the cages with Josh Moore. And then we have our catchers and outfielders. And so we try to, because we have a bunch of different guys that play a bunch of different positions: pitch, infield, catch, outfield, offensive focus, things that they need to work on. So we spread them out and mix them up at early outs throughout the week. And then we'll start at 3:15. And it's pretty routine, for us. We'll start with catch play with our pitchers and catchers together. And that catch play will probably go for about 25 minutes. I want them to play good catch. Even my shortstop, who's our best position player, I want him with our pitching coach for 25 minutes. I don't care if we take some time out of our practice plan. I want him working with his pitching coach, getting good long toss in, getting bands in, getting activation, and then working. We're a big flat ground program. We really like flat grounds and just feeling pitches, just feeling it out. 15 pitches if they're not throwing a bullpen at the end of their catch play. And that's why we have those catchers over there. Those catchers are catching those flat grounds, interacting with those pitchers, and going from there. From there, we'll probably go into some individual defense, infielders, outfielders, catchers, pitchers with some PFPs, some team defense. For us, we really like to work on cuts and relays, and because we play in such a big yard, and so we'll go into cuts and relays or some sort of team defense, competitive. Try to keep things as competitive as possible. We have our JVs practicing with us, so we'll split up the group. JVs, varsities together. We'll split them up like 15 and 15. Black versus purple, 2 different shirts, 2 different dugouts, and they're trying to compete at each drill. They're trying to beat a purple or beat a black on each drill, and so trying to keep it competitive. And then we typically end practice with some sort of team competition, whether it's a coach pitch inter squad, whether it's a slider machine inter squad, whether it's an inter squad. For us, in just my short experience, like the best ways for us to get better at playing the game has been playing the game, and it's a true assessment of where you're at, and you see mistakes at full speed, and one of our favorites is honestly just a coach pitch inter squad with a 1-1 count, so the hitters are putting the balls in play, especially early on when we're trying to hammer in our absolutes and what we're absolutely going to do here, and that's we're going to sprint on and off the field. Like we're getting on and off that field within 19 seconds regardless, or we're going to have some sort of punishment, and they know that standard. And in the beginning we talk about it, and it's the little things, but we see it throughout the year. Like when we're getting on that field as the other team is getting off and we beat them on the field, our kids start to talk our language and be like, we're beating them on the field. Like we got this game, we want to be here more than the other team. So that coach pitch inter squad piece with, I don't even care what position the kids go to. I want them to figure it out on their own. I want to develop a leader on the purple squad and on the black squad. I want them to take the reins and make sure their gloves are getting picked up, and JV guys are getting to know varsity guys. It's everyone pulling together to play to the standard. So sprinting on and off the field, and getting after it, 1-1 count. Just the absolutes of sprinting everywhere we go and competing together, and we track it and chart it and compete in some way, and there's winners and losers on that day, but still make it fun, but want to make it competitive, want them to love competing and love competing together regardless of who's on their team. I don't want to hear any excuses. We don't really tolerate talk about the umpire. Like we've been pretty consistent with that. Like, we'll take a kid out of the game if he's talking about the umpire or has an excuse. We feel like, it's out of our control. So why do we even worry about it? We're just going to try to play our game. Like that's it. We talk about attitude, effort, next play mentality. And if we can control those things, then we'll be all right. So that's what a practice looks like. And, I think we'll mix it up here and there. And as we get into the winter season, we're in the cages. It's it's voluntary, so it's player led, and so I have an opportunity to see some kids as leaders and get them throwing bullpens so their arms are in shape before we get on the field. So, but that's what we do, and so it's worked so far for us.
There's a couple ways I want to go with this, but there's nothing better than when you're going in a game and you're grinding. And how many times I've stopped our guys when they're coming in the dugout, I'm like, stop, look where the other team's at, throttle down. They're not even out of the dugout, guys. This is a part of everything that we stand for. I love that. I wish more coaches, a lot of the right the right programs do it, right? Like it's Absolutely. A baseball thing. But and then you're talking about the competition piece of that, and how many times I've had guys in whether we're doing a 3-team scrimmage or whatever we're doing in practice, right? Well, I don't play here. I'm like, oh, who cares? Do it anyways, because that kid might break his leg tomorrow.
Figure it out.
12 guys. Yeah. Make it happen. One way it's a competition. You're here to compete your butts off, whether you're filling up the water bottles or you're playing third base when you're normally a center fielder.
Absolutely. And it helps them as athletes too. Like, you're not going to play one position in this game. You're going to have to move around. And when you think about it, it's great stories too. Like, what a honorable thing that a kid did. He went to an outfield position that he doesn't play for the group, because the group might have a punishment if you don't get on the field in 19 seconds. And hey, he just goes out there and he figures it out regardless of if he plays there or not. And that's kind of the mentality that we're trying to preach to these kids is, just compete, just get after it. Next play mentality. It doesn't matter. It's about us and what we do, and not about anything we can't control. So
it's even better when you got that guy out there who makes that diving catch.
Yeah.
To win the game.
Absolutely.
We've had that. So
absolutely.
Talk us through, and Jason, when he's done answering, you can ask too, because we're in the same conference, so Jason can tell me all secrets. It's great. I need to hear them all. But talk to us throughout how you structure your practice. And I've always kind of talked, how you do it throughout the season, right? At one point, someone told me, you got to break it down into certain sections of what you need to accomplish here. But day one practice towards the end of your season, even rolling into the playoffs. I mean, are you changing a lot? Is it shorter practices? Is it longer? Is it different tempo? What are some of the things that, as the season progresses along, that you might be doing with your squad?
Yeah, that's a good one. I've gone back and forth. I think you got to know your bodies. I think you got to know from a health standpoint where your kids are at. For us, we play double headers and we're on the road a ton. We're up in Coeur d'Alene and Post Falls and Lake City. So, it's been a long travel throughout the spring. So you got to know your bodies. And then I feel like you do have to keep a routine though. You do have to keep them competing. You can't just roll out BP and hangout sessions and shorts if you've been going hard and really instilling those traits and values in your program throughout the year. So that's something that, we go back and forth with once we get to the end of the year. And it's a balance of knowing where your athletes are at from a health standpoint, and then still, because they got to compete and they can't be shocked or caught off guard when you're in that playoff situation. I think you need to be hardened. You need to trust your training. You have to be ready for it. So that I think that's a good question. Something we look at every single year, and I think it needs to be a mixture of both. Probably, I think you need to know your athletes and then also still compete and get after it.
Yeah, I think
you're talking competition and practice. Go ahead, Jason.
Oh, I was just going to say, just to add to that, I think the key is the repetition, right? It's the routine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we change almost too much, then it gets us out of that normality, I guess, what's we're used to routine aspect. And then that's, I think you could possibly run into some major problems down the road when you get deeper into the playoffs.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, talk routine or not routine. We got routine. Competition at practice. I think a big deal. You talk about ending on practice on something competitive. Are you big on keeping score? Is there we know you're an LC State guy and something on the line, whether painful, not as enjoyable. Where you at with scoring and I don't want to say punishment, but maybe some mental conditioning on the back end of some of those competitions?
I think we've been trying something that we've been trying to do for the last couple. We're trying to figure out how to put the ball in play better with 2 strikes. And you go back and forth with it. You think about maybe taking too many pitches early in the count to get to that point. So a lot of times we're trying to compete and have competitive at bats. So we might put it at a 1-2 count, and I mean the old saying of like getting on top of the plate, shortening it up. I think in high school baseball is important. Like they should learn how to have a 2-strike approach and learn how to put the thing in play hard with 2 strikes. And so, yeah, we'll put competitions together, whether it's a 2-strike game or we'll keep track of runs, or we'll keep track of dirt ball reads is something that we're thinking about constantly. That's in high school baseball you can really take advantage of. We track everything. We try to track points, like points for a quality at bat, points for hard barrel, points for getting to a 2-strike count and putting the ball in play hard. We try to mix it up, and try to make the teams even. And I think putting a little something on the line, field work, whatever, a little bit of conditioning, something to make them want to compete and want to, feel good at the end of the day that you won. You beat the other guys over there in the other dugout, and then we all come together and have a talk and go home. But yeah, I think that's something that our guys really love. Love to get after it and love to have that time where maybe the coaching piece is a little bit out of it, and they just get to go out there and compete and get after it with their team that they're on that day and go from there. But we'll track everything, successful sacrifice bunts. When I took over, I said one of our absolutes is we're not going to move out of the way of the pitch. I'm from Lewis Clark State. We don't move out of the way of the pitch here. Well, I've learned that it's a little bit tougher than that. So you guys would probably laugh at me, but I went to a business here in town that makes milkshakes, and I was like, hey, listen, like I'm trying everything here. I'm trying to get our guys to not get out of the way of the pitch and wear a pitch and try to make it cool and whatever. So do you think you can give us a couple certificates for milkshakes? And she loved it. She thought it was awesome. Her kid's growing up, going to be in the program in a couple years. So we give out we have a hard hat that we take with us, and we put stickers on the hard hat if you get hit by a pitch. And so if you get hit by a pitch, you get a milkshake. And it's kind of a joke with the guys, like they're kind of joking about it, like, hey, let's get a milkshake today. Let's get after it. But hey, it has improved our hit by pitch totals. And I think our team goal is 60. I don't know what we got, but we were just short of that. But things like that where we're competing together. We're not going to get out of the way of the pitch. Like we're just going to wear that thing, and that's just an extra base. And for us, we hit 214 as a team last year, so we'll take any base that we can get. Any tough at bat, anything that we can get on base for, we'll wear it. So, yeah, I don't know. This is some of the stuff that we try to track and compete with.
Yeah, I think in college, I think it was my senior year, the nameless school. We won't dive into that, but I think we had a hit by pitch thing on the line. I think the winner got a dinner or something like that. Ended up tying, I believe, with the second place person for the most hit by pitches on a team. We're waiting for that meal to come through. It's been how many years? 20, not 20, 15 years or so now. So hopefully that happens. That's checks in the mail on that end. If you get any extra milkshake certificates, just know that I earned one a long time ago.
Send it over to me.
Let's dive into the 2K stuff. Like you mentioned, like you struggle, and I want to chat on that. Like it'd be great for us all to kind of get into that realm. Like what's kind of a no slight, but like if your team's hitting 214 as a group, like you don't have the most offensive team, right? You got to manufacture runs, you got to do things differently, like you got to be a little bit more creative, right? And I've had teams like that, and it is what it is. Like, so wearing pitches, free bases, OBP, 2K, like all that becomes so much more important. But have you kind of tried to set that as a more of a mentality? Is it more of a physical thing? Where do you feel like the teams as a whole have lacked in that realm?
I would say, I think like our baseball, group, our it's not really emphasized in our youth, programs. I would say, I think it's, striking out's okay, and I get that. Like, pitchers are throwing harder now. Pitchers are much better. And kids are, it's not very fun to get hit by a pitch. And, if you're trying to be recruited or whatever, you're trying to, those coaches want to see a hit. But that doesn't necessarily translate to winning baseball. So I think it's a mentality thing. Like, we'll take those soft foam balls and we'll work on rolling in on a pitch and stuff like that. But I think it's just being a good teammate and doing anything you can for the good of the group, and knowing and understanding what kind of team you are, and buying into that mentality of your team, and being that gritty team that will do anything to win, and not gonna move our feet, not gonna get out of the way of a pitch, regardless if it's the 9 hitter or the 4 hitter. Um, and then striking out. I think it's probably a mentality of it's been okay for a long time. But if you look at a high school baseball game, if you strike out, 7 times a game, there's 21 outs. So, 7 outs, you're just going back to the dugout and you're not challenging the defense. I've seen in high school baseball, they'll kick the ball. So, being able to, shrink that 7 to 4, and, move from there, and you're able to, make some positive plays where you can challenge the defense, and they might make a mistake and you get on base, and now we can score some more runs. So, I think it's probably a mentality. Yeah. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Well,
I think
Wait,
no,
ahead.
you mentioned like not getting to 2 strikes, right? And I think
Mhm.
if you're not offensive early in the counts, there probably has to be a physical change when you get to that 2 strike count, like whether that's wide, on dish, choke, and then just kind of combat battle mode, right? Because
Right.
if you're not slugging early in the count, then you're basically the same hitter later in the count, right? So, rather
Right.
than looking for something that you're not capable of doing when the count's at a disadvantage, like we have to make a physical adjustment in order to do it. And I was always that guy. I was a punch hitter, and Country can get into that if he wants, but like I know 2K wise for me, like I was always on the dish wide, and like got the ball in play quite a bit, right? And a
Mhm.
lot of that is because I fouled off pitches that I had no chance at handling earlier in the count and get later, and
Mhm.
now we're gonna punch a little bit, and
Mhm.
um so there's different ways to manipulate that. I think challenging guys as best you can, and in scrimmage settings, whether it's a coach on the mound ripping sliders and fastballs at 40 feet, or a tough machine that's tough to handle. I think trying to set that mentality. And I've heard a lot of high school coaches too. I mean, I dabbled there a little bit in the summer, but a lot of coaches will have an off-speed plan in 2K, right? That we're gonna sit
Yeah.
sliders, we're gonna sit breaking balls because of the predictability of the opponent's pitchers. We're at college, like, we're more on time fastball away, so you can handle the hanger, and like you're going to
Yeah.
give up fastball in. But like, I don't know what your guys' thoughts are, but I think I've heard a lot of people been like, we're sitting breaking ball in 2K counts as a high school player. because we know that we're gonna probably get it based on what teams are trying to do. So I'll open it up, see what other guys think on here.
Yeah, I think the frustrating part for me, what I see on the high school level, is almost, we're teaching these young men to play the game. The game is played out is like no different than like the classroom, right? You instruct the information, you're giving them lectures, you give them the notes, then the test lays out how much information they really obtained, right? The games
Right.
it tells us how much the player has obtained. For us, we'll do, a lot of, junior hacks, double machine, unpredictability, know the situation. We inter squad quite a bit, and every inning I'll play it out. Okay, we're starting out normal, 0-0, nobody on. Okay, inning 2, we got a guy at second, everybody's coming up with a 1-1. Okay, I'm not, nor neither of any of our coaches are giving signs, telling each other to steal, whatever. All they're doing is telling them to go or stop. That's all we're doing. And so you as a hitter have to determine, the situation, what is to do in order for your team to win. So stepping into that box, in game like, of course, most coaches are going to give a sign to the player and tell them, we're going to steal here, we're going to hit and run, we're going to bunt, we're going to do this kind of stuff. But even to that, we play in, if you're going to bunt, what are you going to do? You're going to go drag, you're going to go push, you're going to go squeeze, safety, all the scenarios. And so we want them to think, like coaches, right? I got a guy at second base, got no outs. Okay, I want anything, away, maybe I'm going to pull that third baseman off the line, away from the bag, those kind of situations to get that guy now in scoring position. I always tell our guys too, automatics are second and third. When we leave guys on second and third, we're leaving automatic runs. That's the thing I always instilled. So I think sometimes high school coaches can almost, kind of coddle kids in a way of their coaching instead of just let them. And I think part of that's the dialogue. I think collegiately, you're getting the dialogue, but you're getting the other, you got to figure it out, right? If you're up there just allowing punch outs to take place, you're not going to find time, so you got to learn how to fight them off. What are you going to be looking for? Don't be, it's like Kelly saying, I don't tell our guys, hey, we're going to be sitting back and, we're laying off breaking pitches, we're hunting fastballs. We're looking for the best pitch in the box and then go with each guy. I tell him, you all have individual boxes. You have, red and blues. Red's hot, blues is cold. And, you're not, Johnny's not going to hit the same way as Timmy, so it's like, you guys got to figure out your reds and blues. And then I can help instruct that, video footage. We can, do some, things at practice to see that. And so I think you got to kind of just stretch those players, especially if they want to play at the next level. You're not going to get coddled. So
100%.
We had a moment this last season, and actually Jason he saw it happen, the beginning part of it, because we were playing on his field. And actually one of our other loyal listeners was the coach in the other dugout. But we had a moment where, oh my God, we popped up so much. And we were going, you could just see the approach of the kids. And we are young at this point in time, and we're dip drive, and they're trying to hit the ball in the air. And I said, you know what, guys? We figured it out in game 2, and we ended up winning game 2. And then the next day at practice, I set them in the dugout as soon as we started. I was like, we need to have an honest conversation, because how many of you guys live in the weight room? And like 2 guys raised their hands. I said, okay, I know he does, and I know he can run a ball out. Okay, no offense to the other guy, but that's not your game. And no one else is in the weight room and puts that time and effort in. So why are we trying to sit back like we're 6'5" donkeys at the D1 level, just trying to jack the ball, when we've proven that, when we're in Kittitas and the wind's blowing 50 miles an hour, that's okay to hit the ball in the air, because no one can catch that. Jason can catch that.
That's true.
But why, and especially the fields that we play on and what we're doing, we need to have a better approach and put the ball in play. And I'm not necessarily saying hit the ball on the ground, but I said we need to be sitting, second to short, about this high off the air. We're trying to hit the ball on the line. And we need to have an honest conversation of who we are as a player. And when it gets down to 2 strike, you need to be able to compete your butt off. We're widening out, we're getting on the plate. And you could see there was some hesitation with some of the people. And if some of my players are listening, they're going to understand the exact way of this. But I said, do you like striking out 3 times in a row in your plates and you saw some kids get a little wide-eyed. I said, do you want to be successful and win? Yeah. Okay. We've been preaching this plan for the whole season. When are we going to buy into it? And it was actually kind of cool to see how the kids like, all right, kind of one of those moments where they left like, yeah, you're right, coach. Like, it's time to get at it. And then we got the junior hack out and we destroyed them for a little while. That day is actually going to make the adjustment, but it's oh gosh, so much of getting kids to, at least for this, because it's so different every single year, but getting our kids into understanding the concept of why we're doing this. And I said, if you guys live in the room and you come back, you grow 6 inches and you just are an absolute beast. Yeah, you might have a different approach than Timmy over here, but guys, we can't sit here and do the same thing over and over and over, because I'm pretty sure that's insanity.
Absolutely. Yeah. The game changes when you hit the weight room. You know, it just becomes a lot easier, and you have kids that really get after it in the weight room, then you're okay with a little bit of swing and miss. Yeah, those are some great points, man. Like, I feel like hitting's the toughest thing to teach in the game by far. Like, it's so hard. The failure piece, the confidence piece with dealing with 15 to 18-year-olds, it's tough to do. And also you have the balance of like development versus, well, we need to do this to win. So that's something you're always thinking about in practice planning.
Right.
And so I think a mixture of both, of like, they have their time where they're working, whether it's with me or with our hitting coach, and breaking down swing development and breaking down bat path and where they're going. And then also a balance of, well, we have to do this in the game to win, and we want to win as a team. So got to compete and put the ball in play with 2 strikes. And I know it's not the coolest thing in the world or the most fun thing to work on, but we got to do it to win, man. We can't win by striking out 13 times a game. So
well, we had
it's tough.
Moment in that game with our guy that he, at one point in that game too, that doubleheader, he dragged by. He goes, Coach, I'm just not seeing it. And he goes, I'm going to bunt right here. I said, go ahead. And he laid down a bunt for a base hit, and then our 4-hitter comes up and hits a ball off the right center gap, off the wall. We score a run. And that was actually the easiest teaching moment through that speech. Was like, that's the guy, right? Did you guys remember what he did? And they're like, all right. Like, but you're right.
Valuable tool, man.
The guy comes back up the next time and goes back to how he does it, and he hits a P rocket off the wall again. I'm like,
right.
It's all, but that's 100%. Keeping guys in the game of baseball, but yet the development piece. Yeah.
I think it's so important to know like who you are as a hitter. Like, and you guys mentioned that too. Like, just because of, and I think you guys see a big transformation, like that 15 to 18-year-old is such a big growth period. And then even 18 to 20, you get some guys that kind of move around there a little bit, but like really knowing who you are, what your strengths are. I mean, Jason talked about strike zone management, that kind of stuff, but like you really have to have a good idea of who you are as a hitter. And I think every hitter has an A swing and a B swing, right? And I think in cheat counts, like you've earned the right to use an A swing, right? And when you get behind, or you're not having a good day, or it's a tough matchup, left on left, a slider guy, you're not a good slider hitter, like you have to be able to default to a B swing when necessary. And for me, like A swing is slow and early, trying to catch the ball out front. B swing is tight and late, right? A little bit less takeaway. We're a little bit closer to our shoulder, like tighter in our turn, like really trying to control path and try to be closer to the ball. And that can be anyone too. Like that's not necessarily a swing change necessarily. It's just how much of your swing you're trying to take in those situations. So I think it's baseball IQ, right? Like, and I think guys knowing when they're on, when they're off, like we talk hitting, but I mean, that could go for pitching. It can go for anything really, but like just really that self-awareness and situational hitting and stuff. And that has to be taught. Like your older guys are going to get it just by being around the game, but those young puppies, like they know nothing. And it's the same in high school as a freshman as it is in college as a freshman. It just kind of starts all over again. So yeah, I think it's the self-awareness and being able to teach different things and get buy-in from them too. Like give them what they want. Like if you want to hit doubles, like everyone can be a doubles hitter, right? There's a lot of different ways to hit a double. And doubles missed in the air with guys in the weight room are homers, right? Like with younger guys that are less physical, those are outs, right? And ground balls are generally going to be outs if they're weakly hit. But and again, as a whole, it's just a good self-awareness to have at all times.
Yeah, and I think too it's important to have the importance of having a staff that have all the same dialogue, right? I mean, the same way of instructing, teaching the game right. Because I think for players to hear it from a different voice is good for them. It's not always from one voice. Because every coach is going to give a different set of he has a different set of eyes, a different way of interpreting to that kid, and maybe one way you're preaching it, Darren, to maybe your assistant says and just changes it a little bit, and he goes, I get it now, and I think that's extremely important. That, some coaches want to be only one voice, and
Yeah.
I think you just run into dangers like that, and there's no point of having a staff if you're not gonna give them a voice. It's just like captains. You don't just have one captain on the team. You have maybe 2 or 3 captains, because they're all going to add to the group and say, hey, one guy's going to say one thing and another guy says, and then it's just fireworks in the dugout, and you go out and score 3 runs and you win the game. So it's extremely important for those guys to hear those different voices. So
100%. 100%.
I guess I'm just thinking story time, but I remember sitting in the dugout last year and my assistant, and he was like, he needs to do this. I said, I know. I've been telling him. You go tell him, because you're going to say it different than I am. It worked. The kid changed, and he figured it out. And he's like, Coach, that makes so much sense now. I was like, how you communicate with 20 different personalities of people.
Crazy how that works.
We could go. I feel like we could go for another hour easily talking about everything. I got a listener question, and we're throwing this on you. You don't know about this, but Mr. Scott Perry, the kingpin of the Palouse, we'll call him.
Blue Summer Series.
That's right. Scotty,
Himself.
he'll be at the coach's clinic. He'll be there in full. We'll keep him out of prison that night. I guarantee it. But his text for you was the one thing that he's always liked and been impressed with the LC Valley teams is the noticeable positive imprint that the LC Warrior teams have on local baseball, youth programs, Legion partnerships, and connecting the community baseball. As a former player of the Warrior Way, as a former player, is the Warrior Way something you looked to install within your high school program?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think when I played at LC, that was something that I noticed immediately. Like, the players would run the camps, with our coaches, and we're active in the community. We would go to Little League opening days and whatnot. And had a lot of our returning kids, coming back to camps and everything. So we knew a lot of kids. Actually, one of my good friends in college, our good buddy, he has a couple pictures with our shortstop now, who's a junior, and he's a little kid back then, and still keeps in touch with our shortstop now. So I think that starts with the LC coaches, and having an understanding of playing for the Valley, and baseball means a lot here. It's pretty cool. Like, we don't necessarily have a super close professional sports team, but everyone talks about the NAIA World Series, and hoping for the Warriors to play well, and that's your hope every year, is that they win a World Series. So it's definitely different. That's something that I noticed right away when I came here. It was like, wow, this is a little bit different, because in California there's colleges everywhere, and so it really is that small town feel. The Warrior Way, yeah, I try to instill that in our guys. We hustle everywhere. We do the right thing. Trying to help them become better people. That's the goal at the end of the day. Use baseball as a tool to equip them with some life traits that'll help them out. Yeah, it is, awesome. Like, we'll be in the cages, in the winter and voluntary workouts and whatever, and you'll see some LC guys just hop in and hit with our guys and are just interacting with our players and um, not big league at all. Like happy to be there, and not trying to change the machine or anything. They're just hopping out, working with our guys, and giving them feedback. And so that's something that I'm super grateful about. And that's probably one of the coolest things about the job is having that access to those guys over there. And, I asked for their feedback quite a bit. And in the summer, we practice and play at Harrisfield. So those coaches are there all the time and telling me if I'm doing it wrong, but also giving great feedback. They're some of my biggest mentors that I value the most. So yeah, super thankful, and they're great with our kids too. Like they're awesome coaches with our kids, and um, they love kids and just trying to help them get better and grow the game here in Lewiston and in the Valley. And so it's awesome, man. It's really awesome.
Having been at Fresno State for a year
Mm-hmm.
and the whole you being a Turlock guy and the whole concept of Valley Pride and hearing you say that now, like, is that something that you kind of model off your feelings for, what that was? And I can't remember the coach that was there that started that there at Fresno, but is that
Bob Bennett
kind of
wasn't it?
a yeah, there you go. Is that
Yeah.
kind of the model for you and what you're trying to do? Having said that, like, or has that been a consistent thing before you got to Lewiston?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, the coach that was here before me did a great job, and like the culture was awesome when I stepped in. But yeah, definitely, I've thought about the Green V. I've thought about incorporating that in some way. Fresno State is awesome. I don't know if you were around when Tommy Mendonça went there. If that name rings a bell, he's
I
from
got to meet him a
Turlock.
little bit. Yeah, he
Yeah,
came back when he was in Pro Bowl. Yeah.
yeah. So his uncle is one of my dad's best friends. So think about Valley Tough and all that mantras and whatever. Yeah, definitely. Like it's just representing where you're from and playing for something that's bigger than you. We joke about it all the time. Not joke, but we say it all the time. It's bigger than us. Insinuating that we're carrying on. The legacy, I guess you could say, of a Bengal baseball player, and think of it like that at least. So um, definitely, I've thought about that, and it's something that we talk about the importance of history and where we're at, and all the great players and coaches that have come before us, and we're just a small stepping stone, but we're just trying to leave this program better than we found it, and leave this place better than we found it.
Yeah, I think when you go to those little league fields, with your guys and then wearing their purple and gold. I mean, there's something to
Yeah.
it's kind of cool, really, as a coach, right? I mean, you're
Absolutely.
starting to tread that way and developing, or even that incoming freshman, that steps on that field for the first time, and he's got those little bit of that rattle going on in his knees, and but he just because he knows the expectation, to do it right, and
Yeah.
he wants to compete for you and go out and ultimately win. And you're going to get anybody and everybody coming to you when you're definitely putting up W's. And no matter how large your school is. I mean, it's not even on the small school side. So I mean, you think about,
Yeah.
I think a guy, Kim Cox, he's going to be at our clinic here in February, right, Eric?
Mhm.
Correct.
And so you think about all the state championships he's won and what he did at DeSales there in Walla Walla, and I mean, his legacy still lives on today. They just won their 20th state championship here this last spring. And of course, it's just anything with that green and gold, you just know, you think Kim Cox and what he's established and what they built. And of course, when you go play them and they got all those state championships up and the banners in the outfield, it's a little intimidating, as a competitor and an opponent, so that's just, even on the collegiate side. It's just
Yeah.
you see all the kids want to go to the big schools, not just for the swag and the glory and the facilities, but man, it's winning those national championships and competing, and ultimately, like you said earlier, going to LC State. I mean, you're loaded with 5,000 fans, and you're playing a College World Series, and you hit that big hit, and that whole, all those stands in the outfield and all the way down the first and third baseline, they're roaring for you. And when you walk into the park, you got all the MLB guys have moved on from the program. I mean, that's chills just thinking about it, because being those big moments, and we talked about it in our last episode, with Brian, but being in some of those super regional games, and Kelly had the opportunity to do that. I mean, you live for that. I mean, it's just packing those stadiums out and having that roar and being a part of that championship way is extremely exciting.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I
Yeah.
will say, showing up for batting practice, and all the loyal guys are already in the stands in their lawn chairs watching you.
Guys are passionate, that's for sure.
Right.
Very passionate.
Well, Coach, we didn't even touch like half the thing, and we got an hour and 30 minutes of awesome for this Christmas presents for everybody. But we could keep going for another hour or two. But man, thank you so much for taking time to come on with us. And I know that any of our listeners that are going to be attending Ellensburg in February, even more reason to go sign up right now for the clinic, because this is more of the stuff that we're going to have presenting there. And thank you so much for coming on with us and saying yes.
Yeah, thank you for the kind words. Yeah, thank you guys for having me. This is an awesome experience, just to be around you guys, and hear you guys speak about your expertise and all your experiences. It's a fun community, man. So yeah, just really appreciative of all of what you guys have done, bringing great coaches on, and it helps us as listeners, get better at coaching and try to figure it out. So I can't thank you guys enough. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We'll be right back to wrap up this episode.